Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to look at the snow risk across the UK in the next couple of days, and then we're going to take a look at the possibility of multiple named storms, so quite a quick and significant pattern change, but multiple named storms possible through the weekend and into next week. And this could potentially be quite disruptive, so stay tuned to the end of the video to get all the details. But first off, we can take a look at the kind of cold situation. The cold spell is kind of on its last legs here, not going to really stay for much longer than a couple of days or so. You can see we still have our northerly wind across the UK today, so it's still feeling pretty cold. There's our low to the south, which actually originally was forecast to hit the UK, but now it brought the bulk of the snow into northern Europe here, but still, or kind of central northern Europe. But still, we've actually had fairly significant snowfall across the north. Parts of Scotland have seen 20 centimetres, and I suspect at the kind of the higher ground and locally away from those observing stations, possibly as much as a foot of snow or so. And also we've seen fairly widespread snow across parts of northwest and northern England, as well as Northern Ireland and Ireland as well. So it has actually been fairly snowy, and those snow showers will continue into Thursday because we have that cold air remaining over us, as you can see there. The difference between the cold air and sea, kind of comparatively warmer sea, causes instability and allows showers to develop. And then you can see our high is then by Thursday, Friday collapsing, and so it allows milder air to introduce itself by Friday. So quite a quick pattern turnaround, as I said. But still, we are looking at the risk of some fairly significant snow in places on the kind of Thursday and then into Friday. So you can see we've had continued snow showers, like I said, and into Thursday you can see the forecast radar from the French model shows those continuing, actually possibly moving into parts of Wales, maybe just about into the southwest there. Also across Ireland and Northern Ireland and west coast of Scotland, those showers will continue tomorrow. The risk of snow then turns to higher ground on Friday morning, where we see a front moving in from the northwest, and that brings the snow kind of slightly milder air there, so the snow level increases, but still some significant snow possible across higher ground. And this could bring accumulations to a further kind of 10 centimetres or so. Actually, let's zoom in so you can see a bit better. Scotland there. You can see this could bring a decent amount of extra snow, kind of maybe 1 to 5 centimetres across the Northern Ireland and Irish coasts, a couple of centimetres across the western coast, and then Scotland seeing 1 to 5 centimetres more widely, possibly 10 to 15 over the high ground of the northwest. And also we've had some amber snow warnings finally being issued over the Northern Isles and northwest Scotland. You can see here it came into force this afternoon and will be valid until 6 p.m. tomorrow. And you can see 5 to 10 centimeters of snow likely widely, perhaps an additional 20 centimeters in a few locations. And you can see snow warnings also, website's being a bit buggy here, but snow warnings also more widely across Northern Ireland, most of Scotland there, and also Wales and southwest England. You can see also we actually get a snow and ice warning across the east coast tomorrow. Let's check out the radar quickly on that. But you can see the potential for sorry, let me just clear through here. The potential for a couple, oh yeah, I see that, probably a very, very slight disturbance in the flow here could bring the potential for a couple showers down the east coast tomorrow as well. So that's just something to be aware of. And then you can see by Friday, we have an ice warning across Northern Ireland, a snow warning mainly for high ground there, and then by Saturday, our cold weather warnings are completely gone. Then by Sunday, we may notice quite a large warning here. This is a yellow warning for wind. Not quite cooperating here, but you can see areas it's valid for pretty much all of Scotland there. I think that is actually all of Scotland, Northern Ireland, all of Wales and southwest England, parts of the Midlands and parts of northern, especially northwestern England, as you can see there. This is valid from 6 a.m. on Sunday till basically midnight. And you can see a period of strong winds may bring travel disruption. So if we look at the further details section, you can see, oh, I don't know what's happened there. Sorry. Further details. You can see We're likely to see 50 to 60 mile gusts inland through this period. Coasts and exposed locations could see 60 to 70 mile per hour gusts or even higher. And if we take a look at the warning impact matrix, you can see that we actually have a medium impact and a low likelihood. So what does this mean? This means the weather has potential to be quite disruptive, but the confidence in the timing, the placement, the intensity is very low. So if this were to increase in confidence, we could see amber warnings. There is a very small chance it can increase in impact as well, and then we could also see the risk of further warnings. But if we take a look at what is driving that, well, we actually have to turn to the kind of mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, and this is something called the 500 millibar temperature plot. So I actually quite often show the 850 millibar temperature plot, and this is basically the same thing but for a higher height in the atmosphere. So as I've explained before, we measure height in meteorology with kind of regards to pressure. So 1000 millibars is usually the surface, 850 is usually around 1 to 1.5 kilometers. This, depending on the time of year and the latitude, is usually between 4 and 6 kilometers high. So it's fairly high up, but it shows quite nicely the kind of upper level features or the mid level features at play. And what you can actually see on this chart, valid for Monday, or kind of Sunday evening into Monday, is a very, very strong temperature contrast across the Atlantic. You can see we have very cold purple and pink and even white colours there, contrasted by lighter blue colours to the south of that. And you may still think, oh, actually that's still like -15, -10, that's quite cold. But for quite high up in the atmosphere, this is quite a strong temperature contrast, and you can see that ribbon of kind of strong contrast is pointed directly towards the UK. And this is something we call the baroclinic zone, and it's quite important because along this zone of kind of temperature contrast, what can happen is you get local areas of spin, and all it takes is a upper level system. For example, we've got one here, we've got one here. All it takes is for an upper level system or disturbance to have some rising motion which stretches out that spin and essentially can cause the development of low pressure systems. And also it means that we have a lot of moisture pointed towards us, because if you look at the wind barbs, they're kind of hard to see, but they are very strong and they are directly pointing from kind of the tropics all the way back off the screen over here to the UK. So things are almost definitely turning very wet, pretty windy, and we've got a very strong jet stream at play, so we're looking at the risk of a couple very deep low pressure systems. The first one is likely to come on Sunday, likely during the day. Like I say, we don't quite know the timing, but probably the afternoon into the evening. And you can see this is the Met Office facts chart for next Sunday at 12, and take this with a grain of salt because this is 100% going to change over the next few days as we get better confidence in the forecast. But what you can see is a very deep low, 964 millibars. Also quite a few weather fronts, including the risk of rain. And also you can tell from the shape of this low pressure system and the organisation of the fronts, this is not a fully mature low. It's if this were to happen, it would deepen even further, and on the southern flank where you've got those ice bars tightly packed, it will be bringing very strong winds. So pretty much all of the UK is currently at risk of this because the potential wind field is quite large, and also the track is potentially anywhere from off the coast of northern Scotland to the, as I'll show you in a minute, to more central areas that would bring basically all of the UK at risk. So that's definitely one thing to look out for. However, this is likely not going to be the only low pressure system at play. If I show you this loop here, you can see there's the low I mentioned. Remember, this is one, actually let me just change the color quickly. This is just one out of many possible solutions, especially at this range, and especially with deepening low pressure systems where the difference between a average kind of unsettled spell of weather and a properly disruptive windy spell is often quite a fine margin. So a lot of uncertainty naturally. But you can see on this particular run, there's our low, very, very deep, 954 millibars, a lot of rain, especially over those western facing hills, and also very strong winds with those tight ice bars. But also notice something quite interesting. We have a trailing front, and that front actually serves as a new development for a further low. This is basically the surface version of this kind of temperature contrast here. And essentially what happens is on this particular run, we then get a secondary low, which moves into kind of parts of kind of central England and brings strong wind gusts to the south into Sunday evening into Monday. So potentially we're looking at more than one here. However, models actually vary quite a lot on the exact placement of any kind of secondary lows. For example, the GFS actually flips that. We have a initial low, which is nothing too extreme, but does bring a spell of wet and windy weather to the south, and then follows it up with a stronger low, which would likely be the kind of main one, as you can see there. And it also then again has a stronger low into Tuesday, which is likely to affect areas further north. Most models on this one are looking kind of further north, so I would assume further north is more likely with that. If I show you the icon, you can see it has a similar thing, very to the kind of arpeggiator, sorry, I forgot to say that. Very deep low to the northwest, very strong winds over Ireland, Northern England and Scotland. And then again, we've got that trailing front, so it actually brings a further spell of strong winds into the south with a secondary low developing there. So quite a lot of uncertainty with this. If I show you the Dalmatian plot, as I often like to do with these kind of systems, you can see a lot of variation with that kind of pressure position. So you can see we kind of have a cluster of pink and red dots to the north of Scotland and the UK. This is indicating that the very kind of deepest put scenarios, they're likely to take the low to the north of us because the pressure gradient force is stronger that acts kind of to the north. So the lows will tend to track to the kind of, if they're going a straight line, will tend to track as they get deeper to the left. So that's why it goes further north. We also have a fair few amount of solutions which are fairly deep, kind of 970, 980 millibars, which track across kind of Scotland, Northern Ireland. This would bring the threat of stronger winds further south. We also have something in between. The UK Mental Office model had another very deep low, but this was further south, and that brought very strong winds to kind of this sort of area like that. So there is a lot of uncertainty. That's basically what I'm trying to say, but pretty much the entire UK is at risk. So anywhere Sunday into Monday into Tuesday could be wet, could be windy, could be very windy. Just for kind of fun, or not fun, but just as an illustration of a potential scenario, this is what the French model was showing. A very, very deep low, bringing 70 to 80 mile an hour gusts widely for Ireland and Northern Ireland. Also 70 mile gusts into Wales, 70 to 80 mile an hour gusts into Scotland as well. And then kind of, but aside from those areas, the whole UK seeing, and Ireland seeing 40 to 50 miles an hour and very wet weather as well. It's also worth noting that a lot of these models have quite complex low pressure systems. They're not like kind of textbook in kind of that sense of the word. You can see this one here has a low pressure center like that, but we also have a fairly elongated area where there is lower pressure, and we get some sort of secondary low starting to develop there as well. You can see that a few times. So these kind of complex lows, they're very different, very difficult, to forecast, because you often have multiple areas where the pressure is lower, and that can lead to kind of interesting things when deepening occurs and when it interacts with the jet stream. So there's a lot of uncertainty on that, but the potential for widespread and disruptive winds. Here is another example from the GFS, the European model, showing something a bit less developmental there. The Icon model showing also very strong winds, similar to the arpeggiator. So a lot going on, really anywhere could see it. So that's why I just say be prepared. It's also going to be very wet, as I said. We know that's going to be more of an issue for western facing hills. But that's about it. Stay up to date, and thank you so much for watching, everyone. Bye bye.